Whether you are a donor, a recipient, or just someone who is really into pushing yourself physically in the spirit of competition, be sure to check out the National Kidney Registry's donor games at livingdonorgames.org. The 2024 schedule of virtual open competitions will drop in mid-October, and you'll be able to register for these events starting in November. We are excited to be sitting here with someone who is no stranger to sports professionally. As a broadcast correspondent, Megan Connolly has worked with the Big East Conference. Go Huskies! I don't even know what that means because everyone who's listening to this, all my cop friends are like, he doesn't know sports, so I don't know what Go Huskies means. The Cape Cod Baseball League, the New England Patriots, and she is currently the co-host for Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown on the WWE. If all that wasn't enough, Megan Connolly is also a living kidney donor. Megan donated her left kidney on July 12th of this year on behalf of her former boss's wife. In her spare time, Megan is a marathon runner, and she will be competing alongside donor athletes from across the country in the 3rd annual Donor Games Championship this very month. Megan, it is so exciting to be talking to you.
Mike, it is so great to be here. I'm honored. You gave me quite the introduction. You said competing alongside other athletes. Like marathoning is my thing, but we're going to do some pull-ups. We're going to do some weightlifting.
Yes.
So this is really out of my comfort zone, but I am very competitive. So watch out. Maybe a sleeper pick for the donor games.
All right. I don't know if gambling's legal at the donor games, but.
Oh, yeah. You'd get good odds on me, I will say.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
Very
I
good
got
odds.
$20 on Megan Connolly.
Yes. So you introduced me to Megan Connolly. I do work under the name Megan Morant for WWE. I host SmackDown Lowdown. I host Raw Talk. I host WWE's The Bump. I used to do backstage interviews on Friday Night SmackDown. So that's kind of been my world within WWE.
So how did you even have time to donate your kidney with all that? That stuff.
It is ironic because it came up through work. One of my coworkers at WWE was in kidney failure, was looking for a kidney. I found out about it, asked him just some brief questions. What is the surgery like? Will I be able to run marathons? Will I be able to have kids someday? He said, the surgery's laparoscopic. Yes to marathons. Yes to kids. I said, okay, if you need somebody, I'll test for you. And ironically, my boss at WWE, his wife is a kidney recipient. So he was super supportive of this. He said, I've seen firsthand how much this can impact families. Right. So if you at all are interested in doing it, I would say do it. So when I found out I wasn't a match for that coworker, I was really bummed.
Yeah.
I felt like once I got to the place mentally where I wanted to do this, there's no stopping me. I wanted to donate my kidney. And it's a weird thought process because I know going into this that it's not about me at all, right? It's about giving a kidney to somebody else. But at the same time, it is your kidney, so it is about you. And I just really wanted to do this. So a couple weeks after I found out I wasn't a match, I'm on a group chat with some of my old coworkers. Somebody had kidney stones in the group chat. And so I just thrown out there, hey, listen, if you ever need a kidney, let me know. I just tested for somebody and it didn't work out. So my phone rings and my old boss calls. I mean, what are the chances that my 2 past bosses, both of their wives, needed a kidney?
That's crazy.
Right? It's crazy. And also, what are the chances that someone I knew through work needed a kidney and then 2 weeks later, after I had found out I couldn't donate, somebody else in my life also needs a kidney? It just really felt meant to be. I mean, kidneys kept reappearing in my life. And, I saw a sign and I said, okay, I need to follow this. This is something that I'm meant to do. So I went ahead and I started testing for Margaret, knowing going into it that Margaret and I were not a match. I'm blood type B. She is blood type O. So I knew the entire process that Margaret was not going to get my kidney, but through National Kidney Registry's voucher program, she could get a kidney, which, hey, when you need one, you take one.
So let me ask you a question about learning about the voucher program. So how did that make you feel knowing that, you wouldn't be able to donate directly, but there's this other thing out there, this voucher program that could enable you to do it. How did you feel about that?
Well, I didn't even know the voucher program was a thing. And I think a lot of people who are waiting for a kidney, they don't know it's a thing. I mean,
Right.
I follow the hashtag kidney donor on Instagram. I follow the hashtag donate life on Instagram, and I'm constantly seeing all these posts of people who are looking for a match. And I just want to scream from the mountaintops.
Don't say the M word.
You don't need a match. You
Right.
just need somebody who is willing and able to donate. You
Right.
don't necessarily need a match. And in fact, by donating through the voucher program, you can help more people, which is even better. I used to work for the Patriots, you said in my introduction. And so we all know Bill Belichick loves to trade back in the draft and loves to create value. So this is like very Belichickian, right? We are creating a lot of value out of one kidney. Where my kidney and I started a chain that allowed for 4 people to get a kidney on that day.
I think we're going to bring that back to our CEO, Garrett, that the voucher program is very Belichickian.
Yeah. I mean, we got to check with Bill first to make sure, but I think he would give us the green light. I
hope
think.
so. It's so, there's a friend of mine now who tried to donate to a police officer. And I remember her telling me the story when she got the phone call. Her name is Sophia Jackson. When she got the phone call that she wasn't a match, she cried. She just broke down and cried.
I can relate. I felt the exact same way.
And then she had a donor mentor, this gentleman named Steve Wilson, and he said, "Don't cry. It's okay. There's this thing called the voucher program." And she just had this, resurgence, this like a new lease on life. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I could still help someone." So I say it all the time, although I work for the National Kidney Registry now, but even before I worked for them, the voucher program is an absolute, game changer.
Oh, of course. I mean, the stress for a family having somebody in kidney failure. Okay, now we have to find somebody who is willing to donate. And that person who's willing to donate, let's pray that they're a match. That's so much stress. The voucher program can alleviate that from families and allow for more people to get kidneys. I don't think enough people know about the voucher program.
They don't. And that's why we're doing this podcast and the donor games and all these other things. So, one of the mottos we have that my good friend Laurie Sebastian and my co-host Samantha came up with is we want to normalize kidney donation. So we're hoping people hear this, people hear your story and say, well, if Mike could do it and Megan could do it, then, anybody can do it. I was reading an article about your decision to donate, and you had 2 questions for your doctors before you decided to donate. One was, could you have kids? And the other one was, could you run marathons? But the funny thing is, I didn't ask either one of those questions to my doctors. So, what was you going through your mind, and why were those 2 things important to you?
Well, one, I do hope to someday have a family of my own. So if the doctors had told me, hey, this would put you at risk for someday starting your own family, I would have put this on hold until I start my own family. But that's not the case. You can donate a kidney and have a very normal pregnancy and have a very normal birthing experience, have a very normal delivery, and have a very normal, healthy baby. So once I learned that, it alleviated that stress. And then running has always been a big part of my life. I've been running since I was 8 years old. I got a scholarship to run in college. I regularly run marathons. I know, Mike, you're looking at me like I'm crazy because you do not exercise, but...
Wait a minute. You gave me a compliment before that you said that it looks like I do exercise.
It does.
It's the clothes. That
okay.
I got good fitting clothes.
Good fitting clothes.
Yeah.
That's the key to looking in shape. But running has always been so important to me. So I don't know if it would have necessarily ruled out donating a kidney, but it would have made it a more difficult decision for me because running is so important to me. And obviously, kidneys deal with hydration. So I just wanted to make sure that everything was going to be okay with that. And actually, I learned of another awesome organization called Kidney Donor Athlete through the time when I went to the doctor and said, I'm a marathon runner. She said, oh, you should check out Kidney Donor Athlete. And through that, I've been exposed to this whole network of people who are just like me and endurance athletes and wanted to donate an organ. So whenever we talk a lot about, Mike, like when you're a donor, you get it.
Yep.
And being around other people who get it the way that I do, there have been moments throughout the process where sometimes I think I'm a little crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, like everybody is looking at me like I'm nuts. Like, how could you do this? How could you donate a kidney? Not necessarily in a bad way, just in a shocked way. And then when you're with other people who have done it or want to do it, I feel like we sort of speak the same language.
Exactly. It leads right to the next question. Are you back to running?
Yeah, I am. I ran 14 miles 2 weekends ago. I ran 10 this morning. I actually am running the New York City Marathon, but just for fun. I am not running it for a specific time. I'm hoping to help somebody run a goal time that for me would be pretty easier to get. So I'm glad that I could help somebody do that. And it's like everything, the first couple of weeks back were a little tough just because when you take 4 weeks off of doing any physical activity, really. I mean, I was walking, but I wasn't like running at the level that I'm used to. It's a wake up call to the body, like, oh boy, we're back. Oh boy, those calves hurt really bad. But
well, that's why I'm nervous because I've been off for like 50 years, so it's a long time.
It is. But a lot of people are like, how do you feel like with running and the kidney? The kidney was never an issue in my return to running. It was like, oh, my calves hurt, my hamstrings hurt. I'm out of breath quicker than I usually am. So none of that was really kidney related. That was more taking 4 weeks off. And I only had to take 4 weeks off, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that much time.
So we are extremely excited to have you participating in the Donor Games Championship with us. But do you really know what you're getting yourself into?
I have no idea. You said, do you want to do this? I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Did you even look up the event?
I did. I did look up the event. Yeah, I did. But like I said before, all these things are very out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like I got a questionnaire the other day about pull-ups. I'm like, I can't do even one.
Well, our previous guest was Mimi Mahan, and she's going to be competing with you. And she doesn't swim. And one of the events we had this year, throughout the year, one of the opens was swimming. And she's like, you know what? I'm not going to come in first. That's okay. I'm going to challenge myself and do it. So she did. Mm-hmm. She didn't sink. She floated and she swam and she completed it. So yeah, we're super excited. So you've been very open with sharing your donation journey with your fans. You have a lot more than we have right now. So far, there's like 40 people, I think, listening, but we're hoping for like 1 million soon. Was there ever a time when you considered not doing that, sharing it with your fans? And what do you think your fans, like, how do you think that they've responded? Positively, negatively?
Yeah, actually, one of the first things I told Margaret, who I donated on behalf of, so I was like, I don't really know if I want to put this out there. I think I just kind of want to go through this and see what happens. And part of the reason was because, one, I didn't want to share it with anybody until I knew that it was going to happen.
Of course, yeah.
And as you know, going through the process, the screening for donating a kidney is extensive, and there can be things that come up that make it unsafe for you to donate. And I didn't want to share that I'm going to donate until I knew 1,000% for sure that this is going to happen.
Right.
And I think that was for me, and that was for Margaret. I mean, you talked about the woman who cried when she found out she wasn't a match. I mean, I can relate to that a lot because I felt a similar way when I found out I wasn't a match the first time around. So it would have been really hard for me to put it out there and then have to take it back. Oh, I'm not doing that. And then it also is really hard to share your personal life on the internet. Obviously, for my work, my professional life is out in the open. It's very public, and I've made that decision in my career in what I chose to pursue.
Right.
But I don't share a lot of my personal life. I share some sprinkles here and there. My husband is a very private person. You won't see him on social media anywhere. So I've kind of had to balance that in my life, just what I'm going to share and what I'm not going to share. And Margaret had said to me, she works in the nonprofit space, and she said, after going through this, it's going to be my life mission to make sure that people are educated about kidney donation. And I think given your platform, if you were to share, this could really help a lot of people. So I I sat with that for a little while and realized that this isn't about me. This is about educating other people.
Exactly.
And the biggest thing for me is continuing to share my return to life, which doesn't even feel like a return anymore. I mean, it's continuing to happen.
Sure.
But the reaction I get from so many people is like, oh, I could never do that. I could never donate a kidney. And then when they see me, going on a 12-mile run on the weekends, another question I get people, can you drink alcohol? I'm like, yeah, you can drink alcohol. I mean, alcohol's never going to be good for you, but it doesn't, you still can go have a beer if you would like to have a beer. So I think a lot of people get nervous about change, and the change that I experienced, right? I only have one kidney, but my life is really not that much different since I donated. I mean, it does feel a lot more full.
I feel like it's enriched, right?
Yeah, I feel like I have a greater purpose. I have a greater appreciation for things. I still haven't met my recipient yet, but I can't wait to. And I'm so excited to hug him and meet his family and experience all that. And I'm connected now to this community of people. And I really feel an obligation to share. So I'm glad that Margaret opened my eyes to sharing my story. But I also didn't want to make it a thing like, look at me, I donated a kidney, because one of the things about being a donor, it's like, it's a selfless act. And I do feel like I'm a pretty selfless person. So to put it out there over and over again, it feels a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And, so I've had people ask me that who wanted to make the decision whether to, go public with stuff. They didn't have the platform that you do, but just, should I tell the newspaper? It feels like I'm, patting myself on the back. But what I tell them is, I think you're doing an injustice not sharing your story, because you don't know where that story is going to land and who it's going to touch, and, who may end up ultimately donating. So I think I told you I was with the NYPD, and when I told my lieutenant that I was going to donate, he's like, oh, you should talk to the DCPI, the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information. It's a good feel-good story for the police. And so the only people who knew in the police department was my partner and was the lieutenant. And they knew I was donating to a stranger as a Good Samaritan donor. And I went, and the police department loved it, right? Because, they wanted good press for the NYPD. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I can use it as press for advocacy. And I remember the first article came out. My partner's passed away now, but the first article that came out, he called me up on the phone and he was livid. And he said to me, he goes, you're not the person that I thought you were.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, I thought he was joking,
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I thought you were doing this to, like anonymously and to help someone, and now I see your name and your face in the post. He goes, I didn't think you were the type of person that was looking for, for like press and for accolades. And I was like, oh, well, I said, if I shared the story, I'm like, and this is before I donated, because I covered it before my donation and after. I said, if I shared the story, other people would be inspired. He goes, I look at you differently now.
That's hard. And I do think, sometimes when I share things, I think it was like shortly after, like 2 days after I had donated, I had posted something on Instagram, like giving an update on my state, and someone had commented, oh, are you just going to share things about kidneys now? And I was like, okay, well, first of all, it was 48 hours ago. Give me a break. And yeah, it is tough because, like I said before, it is a selfless act, and then suddenly you're like called a hero. A lot of people have told me like, you're a hero, you're a true lifesaver. And I don't really feel like any of those things. I mean, I didn't do this to be a hero. I didn't do this to get attention for it. But what keeps me sharing and what keeps me posting and what keeps me talking about it is seeing the impact that I've made on other people's lives. Some people don't know about the voucher program. And suddenly they learn about the voucher program because I talked about the voucher program. As soon as I started getting messages from people saying, hey, I received a kidney and I want to thank you so much for sharing, because of people sharing like you, it normalizes it. and now more people will get kidneys. So those messages keep me sharing. But it is hard because you get a lot of eye rolls sometimes, like, oh, here comes the kidney girl. Oh, is she posting about her kidney again? We get it, Megan. You donated a kidney. Okay.
I get that still. I still get text messages and they're like, dude, you donated like 5 years ago. It's like, that's like so old, that story. And I said, listen, I'm going to keep telling the story for as long as I could talk.
Yeah.
And, you never know who's going to hear it and who, may inspire. So now that the evaluation process and your donation journey are in the rearview mirror and you're resuming your normal life, what's your biggest takeaway from this experience? And what would you say to anyone else out there who's listening? Hopefully we have 1 million listeners that still has 2 kidneys and might be healthy enough to donate.
Well, I would say, first of all, I don't want to tell other people what to do with their bodies. That's first and foremost.
Of course.
I made a choice that was best for me, and I want other people to feel like they can make that same choice as well. However, what I will say is if you are interested in donating a kidney, if you feel called to do it, which is how I always describe my decision, I just felt called to do it. And when people don't understand that, I can't really explain it any further other than the way I just said it. But if you're interested, I would explore it. I mean, the doctors, they are going to work you up. They're going to make sure that this procedure is totally 1,000,000% safe.
Absolutely.
For you.
Correct. I spoke to a mom and a daughter yesterday, and the mom needs a kidney, and the daughter was crying on the phone to me because she can't donate. She, and she even wanted to like sign a waiver that they could do an open nephrectomy, and she wants to save her mother. And to tie into what you just said, I told her, I'm like, they have your best interest at heart.
Yes.
So of course they want your mom to be great and they want your mom to get a kidney, but you're walking into the hospital as a healthy person and you need to leave as a healthy person, minus 1 kidney.
Yes.
So, she's going to end up, now she's a champion for her mom, and she's going to, share her microsite, which that'll be probably a future podcast episode, but that's a little a mini website so people can help find themselves a donor. And I said, that's where you can help now.
Yeah.
It's just sharing my
not
story.
everybody can donate. That is the reality of the situation. But how I looked at it when I was going in was like, 1, I really want to do this. I'm going to go through the testing. I'm going to go through the evaluation. Either I'm going to be able to donate somebody a kidney and save their life, or I'm going to find out that there is something in my medical condition that I didn't know about, and I'll be able to educate myself more on that. So I looked at it as very much a win-win situation. But my message for others who, if you're thinking about it, I would say explore it even more.
Exactly.
And I'm so glad I did it. It was Wednesday, marked 11 weeks.
Wow.
And I feel totally normal. I honestly forget sometimes that I did it. And when I look at my scars, I really have to pause for a second and go, oh my gosh, I did that. I really did that.
Wow.
I always say this, I don't feel any different, but then at the same time, I feel totally different just emotionally. Sure. One, knowing what my body's capable of, knowing that my body is not just for me. It has helped other people. It has helped other families. It has given life. And I'm just, in a weird way, it also makes me, not that I didn't take good care of myself before, but I feel like it makes me take better care of myself because it opens your eyes to the fact that we're not just living for ourselves, we're living for other people as well.
So you have an interesting story about your doctor?
Well, I loved one just being a female too. I mean, I'm not a vain person, but whenever you're going to have a scar, you think about it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And my doctor told me when I got out of surgery, she was like, you had a perfectly flat stomach going in. And I was so nervous. I drew your incision 3 times to make sure that it was absolutely perfect coming out. And she did a great job. I mean, my scars, it's going to heal very well. And I'm proud of it. I purposely have not put anything on my scars because I like them. Like I'm really proud of them. So I want them to stay around. But I do remember before surgery, she had told me, what if you are never able to run as fast again? And I just looked at her. I was like, no, that won't happen. I will be able to run as fast again. And I'm proud to say I was on the track yesterday and I was hitting times that I was hitting before surgery. And it's only been 11 weeks. And I just want people to know that this pain is temporary. And I don't think I was ever really like in pain through this process. I was uncomfortable.
About the gas pain?
The gas pain is the hardest part.
Was it in your shoulders?
Yes, your shoulders.
Yeah.
You don't want to walk after surgery, but you have to walk after surgery. But really, it was more discomfort and not pain. I mean, I went home after one night in the hospital.
Wow.
And 10 days later, I was at work. 12 days later, I was hosting a TV show. I mean, I felt
that's crazy.
A little bit slower than I normally am. It was hard for me to, you can't lift anything for a while. And I don't like to ask people for help. So it was hard for me to not do that. But thankfully I didn't do it. And I did not get a hernia, which was number one.
That was the same thing. My wife wanted me to pick up something. I think it was like there was something on the top of the refrigerator. It was like a big bin with all the kids' snacks. And she's like, oh, can you grab that for me? And I said, oh, no, I can't lift more than 20 pounds for 6 weeks. She's like, really? I go, I don't want a hernia.
I know. I was very nervous about the hernia thing. So I was like, nope, you can walk as much as you want and no running for 4 weeks and no lifting for 6 weeks. But if people are worried about the pain that comes along with it, I never really felt pain. It was more discomfort.
It's interesting. My doctor did not tell me that I have a perfectly flat stomach.
No?
No. Didn't say anything at all.
Well, she cracked me up because she was so nervous. She was like, I was so nervous during surgery. I really wanted your incision to be perfect. So she said she drew it 3 times. But I loved it. She shared that with me too. Because now when I look at it, I think of her and I think of the experience. And I'm proud of my scars. I'm proud that I did this. I'm proud that my kidney is working for somebody else. And I wish that everybody could donate their kidney. It's not a reality, unfortunately. But I think the more people are educated about kidney donation, the more people will consider
that's the key.
Kidney donation, which for me, all it took was me Googling kidney donation. And then that led to a couple hours on the internet. And then that led to me deciding to do it.
It's the one time Google worked.
Yes. So if more people listening to this, like my biggest hope is that more people Google kidney donation, because I think people will learn a lot and people will consider to donate.
I have one additional question. I don't think it's going to happen with you because hopefully you already know his name, so you're probably hopefully going to meet Joseph one day. But I remember my wife asked me this question because I donated as a Good Samaritan donor. She's like, well, what if you never meet your recipient? Would you be okay with that? Of course, I was like, yes, yeah, of course, because it's I just want to help someone, and I'm giving you a gift, and and that's that. She goes, you're like a people person, and I said, no, I would love to go to Thanksgiving dinner and be invited to parties and hug. So what happened? What can you, I guess, answer the question? What if you never were able to meet Joseph, or you didn't even know his name, and he could be someone that's walking past you on the street?
That would have been really hard for me. And I wrote him almost immediately after surgery. I just got home and I wrote him, and it took him 4 weeks to get back to me, which is normal. The recipient, their road is a lot longer than the donor's road. And I remember when I looked at my phone and I saw an email and it said, your kidney recipient. And I gosh, swerved over. I was like, oh my God, I need to open this now. And then I said, no, wait. wait. I wanted to make sure I was in a quiet spot by myself so I could really take it in and really read the letter. But there were many times during those 4 weeks of waiting where I thought, oh, I'm not going to hear from him, or I'm not going to hear from them. I didn't know who had gotten my kidney.
Right.
All I knew was that it went to UCLA and that it made urine, which made me really happy because before I got discharged from the hospital, my doctor came in and she said, I just spoke to the other surgeon and your kidney made urine.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I shed a tear. Hearing that mine went from New York City to Walter Reed. So it was just a drive, no airplane flight. And they came in and, how many hours later, and they're like, oh, it got there and it's doing good. And when they said it made urine, I don't know. It's just like this emotional thing. I was like,
well, you don't realize maybe it's been a year since this person was able to make urine.
Right.
Maybe it's been, a couple of months, but still that's a big deal.
Yeah.
The fact that it was transplanted, it was working. I had something a little bit different with my kidney where I had 2 veins and 2 arteries, where most people have 1 vein and 1 artery on their kidney. So it's nothing drastic, but the surgeons do have to coordinate a little bit differently. My surgeon had to make sure that she had cut it, for lack of a better term, the right way so that they could attach it the right way. So there was a lot of coordination on that end, but I was concerned about the 2 veins and the 2 arteries and how that's going to work, and is the kidney going to work, because there always is a risk of rejection, or there always is a risk that the kidney may not work. And
right.
I think I had really mentally prepared for that as much as you can. Unfortunately, you can only do so much, but I think I would have struggled had I not heard from Joseph.
I could also see the other side, because I didn't know my recipient at all. And then for another podcast, it's a long story, but we ended up getting connected through Facebook, and then we had a dialogue back and forth. So I still don't know her. I just know her as this Facebook Messenger person, that's got my kidney. And we exchanged phone numbers, and I remember her husband texting me, and there was a small, slight bit of rejection in the beginning, and it had to do with her meds, and she had to go back to the hospital for a biopsy. And I was crushed. I was like, you hear the word rejection, and you're like, oh my gosh, no, and thank God it all worked out and they adjusted her meds. But I remember that moment, it wasn't a phone call, it was a text. It's like, oh, I got to take, her name is Ruth. I got to take Ruth, to the hospital, and there's a small bit of rejection. And just seeing that word did not make me feel good at that moment. I just felt, sad. But
yeah, I kept trying to remind myself, to control what I can control. And
right.
I took good care of my kidney when it was mine. And I made the decision to go through with this process, and hopefully the rest will take care of itself. And if it doesn't, it's completely out of my control. And through the voucher program, I still made a difference, right?
Yep.
It wasn't just going to Joseph. It helped 4 people get a kidney. And then Margaret, my indirect recipient, she'll get a kidney too. So I still did good.
And it's more than that, because all those people who were listed were actually on the deceased donor list. And those people get removed from the deceased donor list, and people get to move up on the deceased donor list. So someone who may not have gotten that next kidney because 2, 3, 4 people may have been in front of them, now those people aren't there anymore. So it actually, it's a true ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a true ripple effect.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to do for somebody. It's a selfless act. And again, we talked before about whether to share the story or not. And no matter how many people may roll their eyes or say, oh, the kidney girl, or oh, she's talking about kidneys again, I just look back on, maybe there's one person out there who didn't know something that I said that caused them to decide to donate. And
I'm going to make you a promise right here. No, I'm being serious. I'm going to make you a promise right here. You may never know that person did that, but I'm telling you with 100% assurance that you keep telling that story, someone's going to donate. At least one person. And I'm really promising that. And I've been able to get validation. We spoke to Mimi Mahan. She was able to get validation. So all I could tell you is to keep sharing your story.
Thank you. I will keep sharing it. And everybody else who wants me to stop, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to.
So I want to thank you for joining the podcast and for serving as a spokesperson for living kidney donors everywhere. Good luck in the championship, and we look forward to seeing you compete in future Donor Games Open workouts.
Thank you, Mike. I got to defend my title that I haven't won yet, so I'll be back. Don't worry.
We'll see. We'll see. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks again to both Megan Morant and Mimi Mahan for spending time with us for today's episode of One is Enough. Speaking of One is Enough, you can learn more about the podcast by visiting kidneyregistry.org/one. When you're there, you can sign up to be on our email list so that you'll be the first to know when we drop a new episode. And trust me, you want to be the first to know.